Have you ever felt trapped by the weight of expectations, chasing success but still feeling empty? What if the secret to true freedom and happiness isn't in controlling everything, but in letting go? In this video from ZENLIGHT 8, we dive into 7 powerful Stoic lessons to help you release what's holding you back and focus on your unique journey. Stick around until the end to discover practical tips you can apply today to transform your life. Don't miss this chance to find peace and strength in our fast-paced world. Subscribe to ZENLIGHT 8 for more life-changing insights. What if the key to true happiness isn't found in chasing more money, more status, more stuff, but in the quiet act of letting go? We live in a world that screams at us to accumulate, to hold on tightly to every possession, every expectation, every fleeting thought. But the more we cling, the heavier our hearts become. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded mall during the holiday season, your arms weighed down with shopping bags, your mind racing with to-do lists and social pressures. Now picture setting those bags down, walking away, and feeling lighter than you've ever felt before. That's the essence of Stoic philosophy. Not a cold, emotionless detachment, but a deliberate choice to release what no longer serves you and embrace the freedom of a simpler, more intentional life. This is the first lesson. Happiness comes from letting go, from living minimally not just in your possessions but in your mind and soul. Through real-life stories, practical steps, and a fresh perspective on Stoicism, let's explore how shedding the unnecessary can lead you to a life of profound peace and unshakable strength. Right here in the hustle of modern America. The idea that happiness stems from having less might sound counterintuitive in a culture that celebrates Black Friday sales and Instagram feeds filled with picture-perfect lives. We're conditioned to believe that a bigger house, a fancier car, or a promotion will fill the void inside us. But let me ask you, have you ever bought something you thought you needed? A new phone, a designer bag, or even a gym membership, only to find that the excitement faded within days? I remember my own moment of reckoning a few years ago, living in a 600-square-foot apartment in Seattle, surrounded by stuff I thought defined me. Shelves overflowed with books I'd never read, closets burst with clothes I rarely wore, and my calendar was packed with commitments I didn't enjoy. I was earning a 6-figure salary, yet I felt trapped, like I was sprinting on a treadmill that never stopped. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Those words hit me like a lightning bolt. I wasn't free. I was chained to my possessions, my job, and the expectations I thought I had to meet. So I decided to try something radical. I let go. I donated half my wardrobe, sold furniture I didn't need, and quit the job that was draining my soul. I moved to a smaller town in Oregon, renting a modest cabin with just a bed, a table, and a few cherished items. At first, the silence was unnerving. No buzzing notifications, no rush hour traffic, no colleagues demanding my time. But as the days passed, I noticed something extraordinary. The sunrise over the pine trees felt more vibrant than any paycheck. The smell of fresh coffee in the morning became a luxury I'd overlooked for years. By stripping away the excess, I uncovered a clarity I didn't know I'd lost. My mind, once cluttered with worries about what I should be, began to focus on what truly mattered. My health, my passions, my peace. This isn't just my story. It's a universal truth that Stoicism has taught for centuries, and it's more relevant than ever in today's fast-paced world. Consider Sarah, a 32-year-old marketing manager from Chicago I met at a mindfulness workshop. She was drowning in debt, working 60-hour weeks to afford a lifestyle she thought she needed. Brunch dates, luxury handbags, a downtown apartment. But when she hit burnout, she turned to Stoicism and started questioning her choices. Using critical thinking, she asked herself, do these things actually make me happy, or am I chasing someone else's definition of success? She began decluttering her life, selling items she didn't use and cutting ties with toxic friendships that drained her energy. Within a year, she'd paid off $20,000 in debt, moved to a smaller apartment, and started a side hustle as a freelance writer, something she'd always dreamed of but never dared to pursue. Sarah didn't just free up physical space. She freed her mind to live authentically. Stoicism teaches us that happiness isn't about accumulating more, but about appreciating what we already have. It's a form of mental minimalism, where we declutter not just our homes but our thoughts. In the US, where the average person owns over 300,000 items and spends 12 hours a week on social media, this lesson feels like a lifeline. We're bombarded with ads telling us we need the latest gadget or the perfect body to be complete. But what if we flipped the script? What if we used critical thinking to challenge those messages? The next time you're tempted to buy something, pause and ask, will this add value to my life? Or is it just filling a temporary void? This simple question can shift your perspective from mindless consumption to intentional living. So, how do we apply this in our daily lives? Let's start with mindfulness, a practice that's both stoic and profoundly practical. Each morning, set aside 5 minutes to sit quietly, no phone, no distractions. Focus on your breath and notice the thoughts that arise. Are they about what you lack or what you're grateful for? This exercise trains your mind to let go of negativity and anchor itself in the present. I've been doing this for years, and it's like hitting a reset button for my soul. Another powerful tool is minimalist journaling. Instead of writing endless to-do lists, jot down 3 things each day that truly matter. Maybe a walk in the park, a call with a loved one, or a moment of creative work. By focusing on these priorities, you'll find fulfillment in simplicity. For example, last week, I wrote, enjoy a sunset hike, finish a chapter of my book, and cook dinner with my partner. Those small acts brought me more joy than any shopping spree ever could. Decluttering your physical space is equally transformative. The average American home contains 10,000 to 20,000 items, many of which we rarely use. Try the 90-90 rule. If you haven't used something in the last 90 days and don't plan to use it in the next 90, let it go. Donate clothes, recycle old electronics, or sell furniture that's collecting dust. When I downsized, I sold a $500 couch I barely sat on and used the money to fund a weekend camping trip that recharged my spirit. It wasn't about loss, it was about gaining experiences that mattered. And don't stop at objects. Examine your relationships and commitments. Are there people in your life who leave you feeling drained? Are you saying yes to obligations out of guilt? Letting go of these burdens isn't selfish. It's an act of self-respect. This journey isn't always easy. We cling to things because they feel safe, familiar. But as Seneca said, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. In modern America, where 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck and anxiety rates are soaring, this wisdom is a call to action. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning ambition or living like a monk. It means choosing what aligns with your values and releasing the rest. Imagine waking up in your apartment, free from the pressure to keep up with the Joneses, your mind clear of self-doubt, your heart full of gratitude for the life you've built. That's the richness Stoicism promises, not in dollars, but in peace. Let's bring this full circle with a question. If you could let go of one thing today, a possession, a worry, an expectation, what would it be? Picture your life without it. Maybe it's the fear of not being enough that keeps you working overtime. Maybe it's the clutter in your garage that's been stressing you out for months. Whatever it is, take one small step toward releasing it. Donate that old jacket, say no to that draining invitation, or simply write down a worry and tear it up. These acts of letting go are like dropping stones from a backpack you've carried too long. With each release, you'll walk lighter, breathe deeper, and rediscover the freedom that's been within you all along. The beauty of this Stoic lesson is that it's not just about less, it's about everything. When you strip away the noise, you uncover the signal, a life of purpose, clarity, and joy. As we move forward, the next lesson will dive into the art of embracing life's constant change, showing you how to flow with the river of existence rather than fight against it. We've just explored how letting go of the unnecessary can lighten our hearts and lead us to a life of profound peace. But what happens when life itself shifts beneath our feet, pulling us into uncharted waters? And what about the invisible burdens we carry? Fears, expectations, the need to be perfect, that keep us tethered to a life that no longer feels like ours. Stoic philosophy offers us a roadmap to navigate these challenges, not by resisting or controlling them, but by embracing change and breaking free from the chains we've forged ourselves. In this journey, we'll dive into two powerful lessons. First, accepting the relentless flow of life to live more authentically, and second, dismantling the self-imposed barriers that hold us back. Through stories, practical steps, and a fresh perspective on Stoicism, let's uncover how these ancient truths can transform our modern lives in America, where change is constant and pressures are ever-present. Imagine standing by a riverbank in the Pacific Northwest, the water rushing past, carrying leaves and twigs in its current. You reach out, trying to hold onto a single leaf, but the harder you grasp, the more it slips away, leaving you frustrated and empty-handed. Life is that river, always moving, always changing, and our instinct is to cling to what's familiar. A job, a relationship, a version of ourselves we've outgrown. But Stoicism teaches us that resisting this flow only breeds suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them." This isn't a call to apathy, but an invitation to dance with life's impermanence, to find freedom in letting go of what we cannot control. I learned this lesson the hard way during a turbulent period in my late 20s. I was living in Denver, working as a project manager for a tech startup, and everything seemed perfect on paper. A $90,000 salary, a sleek apartment downtown, and a social circle that kept my weekends buzzing. But then the company downsized, and I was laid off overnight. My carefully curated life unraveled. My savings dwindled. My apartment lease became a burden, and I felt like a failure. I spent weeks fighting the change, applying frantically to similar jobs, desperate to reclaim what I'd lost. But the more I resisted, the more lost I felt. One evening, sitting in a quiet park near Boulder, I remembered a Stoic principle. Focus on what's within your control and release the rest. I couldn't control the layoff, but I could control how I responded. So I let go. I stopped chasing the same career path and took a part-time job at a local bookstore, giving myself space to reflect. In that surrender, I discovered a passion for writing, something I'd buried under years of corporate ambition. The change I'd feared became the gateway to a life more aligned with who I was. This story isn't unique. Consider Emily, a 40-year-old nurse from Atlanta I met through a Stoicism discussion group. She'd spent a decade in a marriage that no longer brought her joy, holding on because she feared loneliness and societal judgment. But when her husband announced he wanted a divorce, her world collapsed. Instead of fighting the change, she turned to Stoicism, particularly Epictetus's teaching. We cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we perceive and respond to it. Emily began practicing gratitude for the present moment, focusing on her career and her love for painting. She rented a small studio apartment, joined an art class, and started selling her work at local markets. Today, she describes the divorce not as a loss but as a liberation, a chance to live authentically. By embracing change, she found a lightness she hadn't known in years. In modern America, where 60% of workers report feeling stressed about job security, and 1 in 3 marriages ends in divorce, accepting change is a survival skill. We're surrounded by uncertainty, economic shifts, technological disruptions, personal transitions. Yet, we often waste energy trying to freeze time, clinging to routines or relationships that no longer serve us. Critical thinking can help us break this cycle. Ask yourself, am I holding on to this because it's truly valuable, or because I'm afraid of what's next? This question cuts through emotional fog, revealing whether our resistance is rooted in reason or fear. For instance, when I considered staying in a draining friendship, I realized I was afraid of being alone. But by letting go, I made space for connections that uplifted me. How do we practice this in daily life? Start with the art of impermanence, a Stoic exercise that's both grounding and liberating. Each morning, take a moment to remind yourself that everything, your job, your home, even your loved ones, is temporary. This isn't morbid. It's a way to cherish the present. When I began this practice, I started appreciating small moments, like the warmth of a 12-ounce coffee cup or the laughter of my niece during a video call. Another powerful tool is the leaf on the river visualization. When you're stressed about something beyond your control, a delayed flight, a critical colleague, picture it as a leaf floating away on a stream. Let it drift without chasing it. I used this during a recent family conflict, imagining my frustration as a leaf slipping out of sight. The relief was immediate, freeing me to focus on what I could influence, like listening with empathy. Writing an unsent letter is another transformative practice. If you're struggling to let go of a past hurt or a current worry, pour your emotions onto paper. Describe your anger, fear, or disappointment, then destroy the letter. Burn it, tear it up, or toss it in the recycling. This act, rooted in Stoic detachment, releases emotional weight without external confrontation. I did this after a falling out with a colleague, and the process felt like shedding a 10-pound backpack. Finally, embrace small changes intentionally. Try a new route to work, eat at a different cafe, or rearrange your living room. These micro-shifts train your mind to welcome change rather than fear it. In a country where 80% of people report feeling stuck in their routines, these practices are a rebellion against stagnation, a step toward living lightly and authentically. But what happens when the barriers to freedom aren't external changes but internal chains? Fears, societal pressures, the relentless pursuit of perfection. This brings us to our next lesson: breaking the invisible chains we choose to wear. Picture yourself in a busy New York City subway station, surrounded by strangers, yet feeling like every eye is judging your outfit, your posture, your very existence. Your heart races, your shoulders tense, and you shrink into yourself, afraid of making a wrong move. Now imagine looking around and realizing no one's watching. They're all lost in their own worries, their own invisible chains. Marcus Aurelius captured this irony. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. These chains, fear of failure, need for approval, obsession with perfection, are ones we forge ourselves, yet they hold us back more than any external force. I faced these chains head-on during a pivotal moment in my career. At 30, I was offered a leadership role at a San Francisco nonprofit, a dream opportunity by most standards. But I turned it down, paralyzed by the fear that I wasn't qualified, that I'd fail spectacularly and disappoint everyone. I told myself the job wasn't right, that I needed more experience. But deep down, I was terrified of judgment. It wasn't until I stumbled across Seneca's words, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," that I saw the truth. My fear was the real barrier, not the job. So, I took a leap, accepting a different role that scared me just as much. To my surprise, I thrived, and the experience taught me that the worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as we imagine. Letting go of that fear felt like dropping a 50-pound weight I'd carried for years. This struggle is universal. Meet James, a 28-year-old graphic designer from Austin, who shared his story in a Stoicism blog I follow. He spent years perfecting every project, paralyzed by the need to be flawless. Deadlines slipped, clients grew frustrated, and his self-esteem plummeted. When he discovered Stoicism, he began questioning his perfectionism. Is this need for perfection helping me grow, or is it keeping me stuck? He started submitting good enough work, accepting that mistakes were part of the process. Within months, his productivity soared, and he landed a major client who valued his creativity over his polish. James didn't just break his chains, he forged a new path to confidence and freedom. In America, where 70% of adults report feeling overwhelmed by societal expectations and 1 in 4 struggles with anxiety, these invisible chains are a silent epidemic. We're taught to measure our worth by likes, promotions, or flawless appearances, but this pursuit traps us in a cycle of self-doubt. Critical thinking is our escape hatch. When you feel pressured, pause and trace the source. Is it your boss's criticism, or your fear of not being enough? Is it a friend's comment, or your need to please? Perfection, as Stoics remind us, is a trap. It whispers that you'll never be ready, never be worthy. But the truth is, you're enough right now, flaws and all. To break these chains, start with self-awareness. Write down 3 things that make you feel stuck. Maybe fear of rejection, pressure to impress, or guilt over past mistakes? For each, ask, if I let this go, what's the worst that could happen? Often, the answer is temporary discomfort, a small price for lasting freedom. I did this when I felt trapped by a need to please my family, realizing that saying no to certain demands wouldn't end our bond. It strengthened my authenticity. Another practice is deliberate exposure. If you fear rejection, seek it out in small doses. Ask for a discount at a coffee shop, pitch an idea you think might be declined, or share a vulnerable post online. Each no desensitizes you, proving that rejection isn't the end. It's just a step. I tried this at a local bookstore, asking for a discount on a novel. The clerk said no, and I walked away smiling, lighter for it. Gratitude also dismantles these chains. Each night, jot down 3 things you're proud of, no matter how small. Maybe you spoke up in a meeting, cooked a new recipe, or simply got through a tough day. This shifts your focus from what you lack to what you've achieved. In a culture where 65% of millennials feel they're not enough, this practice is a quiet revolution. Freedom, as Stoics teach, isn't the absence of limits but the courage to choose which limits matter. When you stop believing in the chains of fear and expectation, you realize you've been free all along. These lessons, embracing change and breaking invisible chains, build on the foundation of letting go, creating a life where you move with grace and strength. But what if freedom isn't about escaping your circumstances at all? The next lessons will explore how to find peace without changing a single thing around you, and the quiet power of walking your own path, even when the world feels loud and demanding. We've journeyed through the art of letting go, embracing life's ceaseless flow, and breaking the invisible chains we place on ourselves. Each step has brought us closer to a lighter, freer version of who we are meant to be. But what if the freedom we seek doesn't require us to pack our bags, quit our jobs, or chase a new horizon? What if it's possible to find peace right where we stand, by shifting our perspective and embracing the quiet moments we so often avoid? Stoic philosophy offers 2 profound lessons to guide us here. First, the art of leaving without taking a single step, by mastering our perceptions and emotions. And second, the quiet power of solitude, where we confront ourselves and uncover a strength that no crowd can provide. Through real-life stories, practical practices, and a modern lens on ancient wisdom, let's explore how these truths can transform our lives in the hustle of today's America, where external noise often drowns out our inner voice. Imagine waking up in your suburban home, the same one you've lived in for years, with the same job, the same neighbors, the same routine. Yet, something feels off. A gnawing dissatisfaction, a sense that happiness is just out of reach, waiting in a new city, a better career, or a different life. We've all been taught that to escape discomfort, we must do something drastic. Move across the country, end a relationship, or start over. But Stoicism challenges this instinct, suggesting that true freedom lies not in changing our surroundings but in changing how we see them. Epictetus, a former slave who found liberation through philosophy, said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." This is the art of leaving without moving an inch, a practice of reframing our reality to find peace exactly where we are. I discovered this truth during a particularly grueling phase of my life in Chicago. I was working as a freelance consultant, juggling deadlines for clients who seemed impossible to please. My inbox was a battlefield. My commute through rush hour traffic felt like a daily punishment, and I was convinced that a new job, or maybe a move to a quieter town, would fix everything. I spent months browsing job boards and real estate listings, dreaming of a fresh start. But one evening, after a client meeting went south, I sat in my 400-square-foot apartment, exhausted and defeated. That's when I stumbled across a Stoic exercise. Instead of reacting to my frustration, I paused and asked, is this situation itself the problem, or is it my perception of it? I realized I was letting external chaos, client demands, honking cars, tight deadlines, dictate my inner state. So I decided to experiment. For 1 week, I stopped complaining about my job and focused only on what I could control. My effort, my responses, my attitude. I prepared thoroughly for meetings, smiled at my barista despite the morning gridlock, and practiced deep breathing when stress crept in. To my surprise, the job didn't change, but my experience of it did. The dissatisfaction faded, replaced by a calm confidence. I hadn't moved an inch, yet I'd left my misery behind. This lesson resonates deeply in modern America, where 75% of workers report job dissatisfaction, and 1 in 5 adults considers relocating for a better life. We're conditioned to believe that happiness is external: a bigger paycheck, a trendier city, a perfect partner. But Stoicism flips this narrative, emphasizing that our reality is shaped by our mind. Take Lisa, a 35-year-old teacher from Phoenix I met at a Stoic workshop. She hated her school's bureaucracy, endless paperwork, unsupportive administrators, disengaged students. She planned to quit and move to Seattle, convinced a new environment would spark joy. But before making the leap, she tried a Stoic approach. She focused on what she could influence, like creating engaging lesson plans and connecting with her students one-on-one. She also practiced gratitude, noting 3 things each day that brought her fulfillment, like a student's breakthrough or a quiet moment grading papers with a 16-ounce latte. Within months, Lisa's perspective shifted. She still faced red tape, but it no longer defined her days. She didn't need to leave Phoenix. She'd already left her discontent by reframing her role as a teacher. Critical thinking is key to this practice. When you feel trapped, ask, is my environment the issue, or is it how I'm interpreting it? This question cuts through emotional noise, revealing whether your dissatisfaction stems from reality or assumption. For example, if a coworker's comment stings, consider whether their words reflect your worth or their own frustrations. This mindset shift is liberating in a culture where 60% of Americans report feeling overwhelmed by daily stress. To apply this, try inner observation. The next time you're angry or anxious, don't react immediately. Instead, name the emotion, "I feel frustrated," and ask, does this reflect the situation or my lens on it? I used this when a neighbor's loud music disrupted my work from home day. Instead of banging on their door, I observed my irritation, put on noise-canceling headphones, and refocused. The music didn't stop, but my frustration dissolved. Another powerful tool is mental distancing. When faced with a challenge, imagine you're watching yourself in a movie. If your boss snaps at you, picture the scene as a neutral observer. Does it seem as dire? This practice, rooted in Stoic detachment, creates space between your emotions and actions. I tried it during a heated family dinner, stepping back mentally when an argument flared. From that distance, I saw my uncle's criticism wasn't personal. It was his stress talking. I responded calmly, defusing the tension. Gratitude also anchors this practice. Each evening, write down 3 things you're thankful for in your current life. A cozy 10-square-foot balcony, a friend's text, or the ability to walk a mile in your neighborhood park. In a nation where 70% of people say they want more, gratitude shifts your focus to what's already enough. These steps don't change your circumstances, they change you, proving that freedom is an inside job. But what happens when the noise of the world fades, and you're left with just yourself? This brings us to the next lesson, the quiet power of solitude. In a culture that equates busyness with worth, sitting alone in a coffee shop without your phone feels radical, even unsettling. Your hands itch to scroll, your eyes scan for a familiar face, and an emptiness creeps in. We're wired to seek connection, validation, constant stimulation. Yet Stoicism teaches that it's in solitude we find our truest strength. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Solitude isn't about isolation. It's about confronting who you are when no one's watching, free from the need for applause or approval. I learned this lesson on a rainy weekend in Portland when a storm canceled my plans, a friend's birthday party, a hiking trip, a networking event. I was stuck in my 300-square-foot studio, alone with my thoughts, no distractions to hide behind. First, I felt restless, almost afraid. Why was I so uncomfortable just being? Then I remembered a Stoic principle. Solitude is where we meet ourselves. So I leaned into it. I turned off my phone, lit a candle, and sat with a notebook, writing whatever came to mind. Fears, dreams, regrets. I asked, who am I when no one's liking my posts or praising my work? The answers were raw. I was creative, curious, but also prone to self-doubt. That day, I began to see solitude not as loneliness but as a mirror, reflecting my strengths and shadows. By facing them, I found a quiet confidence that no crowd could give me. This experience isn't mine alone. Consider Mark, a 29-year-old software engineer from Boston I connected with online. He was a social butterfly, always at bars, concerts, or group workouts, chasing validation through likes and laughter. But when a job transfer left him in a new city with no friends, he spiraled into anxiety, feeling worthless without his social circle. A colleague introduced him to Stoicism, and Mark began experimenting with solitude. He started taking solo walks along the Charles River, leaving his phone at home. At first, the silence was deafening, but over weeks, he noticed his thoughts settling. He journaled about his values, creativity, learning, kindness, and realized he'd been living for others' approval. Today, Mark still loves socializing, but he no longer needs it to feel whole. Solitude gave him the courage to launch a tech blog, sharing ideas he once hid for fear of criticism. In America, where 50% of adults report feeling lonely despite constant connectivity, solitude is a radical act. Social media, with its 3.8 billion users globally, fuels a culture of comparison, urging us to measure our worth by followers or likes. Yet, Stoicism reminds us that true freedom comes from within, not from external validation. Critical thinking helps us challenge this. Ask, am I seeking connection because I value it, or because I'm afraid of being alone? This question exposes whether our actions align with our authentic selves. To embrace solitude, start small. Spend an hour without your phone. Maybe reading in a 20-square-foot backyard or sipping a 12-ounce tea at a cafe. At first, you'll feel exposed, but that discomfort is where growth begins. I tried this at a local diner, sitting alone with a book. The urge to check my notifications was strong, but by the end, I felt grounded, present. Journaling is another gateway to solitude's power. Each night, write 3 truths about yourself, qualities, hopes, or struggles, without worrying about others' opinions. For example, I wrote, I'm resilient. I doubt myself too much. I want to write a novel. Over time, these entries reveal who you are beneath the noise. Seneca's advice complements this. Associate with people who are likely to improve you, but welcome solitude to know yourself. Solitude doesn't mean cutting ties. It means choosing relationships that align with your values. Finally, try a solo adventure. Take a 5-mile hike, visit a museum, or cook a new recipe for yourself. These acts build self-reliance, showing you don't need others to feel complete. In a society where 80% of young adults feel pressure to keep up, solitude is a quiet rebellion, a path to living for you. These lessons, leaving without moving and embracing solitude, build on our journey of letting go, flowing with change, and breaking invisible chains. They remind us that freedom and strength are not destinations but choices we make daily, right where we are. As we move forward, the next lessons will explore what true freedom really means and how owning less can lead to having everything, offering a final step toward a life unburdened and whole. We've walked a transformative path together, learning to let go of what weighs us down, to flow with life's changes, to break the chains of fear, to find peace without moving, and to embrace the strength of solitude. Each lesson has peeled back layers of noise, revealing a clearer, freer version of ourselves. But what does freedom truly mean in a world that equates it with endless choices and material success? And how do we find fulfillment when society urges us to chase more? Stoic philosophy offers its final 2 lessons to complete this journey. First, that true freedom is not about doing whatever we want but about mastering our inner world. And second, that by owning nothing, we can have everything, finding richness in the simplicity of our thoughts and lives. Through stories, practical tools, and a modern take on ancient wisdom, let's explore how these truths can anchor us in today's fast-paced America, where the pursuit of more often leaves us empty. Picture yourself standing atop a 12,000-foot mountain in Colorado, the wind whipping through your hair, the vast sky stretching endlessly before you. No deadlines, no notifications, no one to impress. Just you and the open world. For a moment, you feel free. But as you descend, your mind creeps back to worries. A work email you forgot to answer. A bill due next week. What your friends will think of your latest decision. Suddenly, that mountaintop freedom vanishes, even though nothing external has changed. This is the paradox of freedom in modern life. We chase it in vacations, new jobs, or spontaneous adventures, yet it slips away the moment our thoughts take over. Stoicism redefines freedom, not as the ability to do anything we please, but as the power to release negative emotions and external pressures, to control the one thing we truly own, our mind. Epictetus, who lived as a slave yet found liberation through philosophy, said, "Is freedom anything else than the right to live as we wish? Nothing else. But living as we wish doesn't mean unchecked desires. It means choosing how we think and feel, no matter what life throws at us." I learned this lesson in a moment of unexpected clarity during a high-stakes presentation in New York City. I was pitching a project to a room of executives, my heart pounding, palms sweaty, desperate to impress. Halfway through, a senior VP interrupted with a sharp critique, questioning my data. Instantly, I felt a surge of anger and embarrassment, my mind screaming, "You're failing!" But then, a stoic question surfaced. Does this moment define me, or is it my reaction that matters? I took a breath and asked myself 3 questions. Is this criticism within my control? Will getting defensive help? If I let go of this anger, how will I feel? The answers were clear. I couldn't control the VP's words. Arguing would only escalate tension, and releasing my emotions would free me to focus. So I smiled, thanked him for the feedback, and calmly addressed his point. The room relaxed, the pitch succeeded, and I walked out feeling lighter than ever. Not because I won them over, but because I'd reclaimed my inner peace. In that moment, I was free, not from the situation, but within it. This principle is a lifeline in America, where 80% of adults report stress from work, finances, or social pressures, and 1 in 4 struggles with mental health. We're bombarded with triggers, critical bosses, divisive news cycles, the constant hum of social media comparisons. Yet, Stoicism teaches that these don't control us unless we let them. Critical thinking is our shield. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask, is this within my power? Will my reaction improve things? What if I let this emotion go? These questions, rooted in Stoic practice, shift your focus from external chaos to internal choice. For instance, when a friend canceled plans last minute, I felt a sting of rejection. But by asking these questions, I realized their decision wasn't about me. It was their own stress. I let the hurt float away, choosing to enjoy a quiet evening instead. Meet Rachel, a 33-year-old accountant from Miami I connected with through a Stoic online forum. She was trapped in a cycle of anxiety, obsessing over her firm's demanding culture and her fear of making mistakes. Every email from her boss felt like a personal attack, every deadline a test of her worth. When she discovered Stoicism, she began practicing a simple exercise. Before reacting to stress, she'd write down her emotion, "I'm anxious about this audit," and ask, "Is this feeling helping me? Or is it a choice I'm making?" She realized her anxiety stemmed from fearing others' opinions, not the work itself. Over time, she trained herself to let go of these reactions, focusing on her tasks with calm precision. Within a year, Rachel earned a promotion, not because her job changed, but because she'd freed her mind from its grip. Her story shows that true freedom isn't external. It's the courage to choose peace over panic. To live this freedom, try slowing down for a day. Spend 24 hours without social media, rushing, or overthinking. Instead, observe your thoughts as they arise, like clouds passing in a sky. When I did this, I noticed how often I dwelled on trivial worries. A coworker's tone, a missed workout. By letting them pass without judgment, I felt a spaciousness in my mind, a freedom no vacation could match. Another practice is the Stoic premeditation of evils. Each morning, imagine potential challenges, a traffic jam, a rude comment, and decide how you'll respond calmly. This prepares you to stay steady when chaos hits. In a country where 65% of people check their phones within 5 minutes of waking, these practices are a rebellion against distraction, anchoring you in what you can control, your inner world. Freedom, as Seneca reminds us, is not about escaping life's storms but dancing in the rain, unburdened by the emotions that once held you captive. This brings us to our final lesson: owning nothing, having everything. In a world obsessed with more money, more followers, more stuff, it's easy to believe that happiness lies in accumulation. But Stoicism flips this script, teaching that the poorest person isn't the one with the least, but the one who craves the most. True wealth is not in what you possess, but in how you live, in the clarity of your mind and the gratitude in your heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This paradox, owning nothing yet having everything, is the culmination of our Stoic journey, a call to find fulfillment in simplicity, right here in the consumer-driven landscape of modern America. I faced this truth head-on during a financial low point in my early 30s, living in a 200-square-foot studio in Austin. I'd lost a major freelance contract, my savings were down to $500, and I was surrounded by friends flaunting new cars and exotic trips. I felt like a failure, convinced that more money would fix my emptiness. But then I stumbled across Seneca's words, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." I decided to test this. I sold my $800 smartphone, switched to a basic flip phone, and stopped chasing status symbols. At first, I felt out of step, like I was falling behind in a race everyone else was winning. But as weeks passed, I noticed a shift. Without constant notifications, my mind cleared. Without comparing myself to curated Instagram lives, my heart lightened. I started savoring small joys, a 10-mile bike ride through Zilker Park, a $2 taco from a food truck, a used book from a local shop. I owned less, but I had more time, more peace, more me. This isn't just my story. It's a universal awakening. Consider Maria, a 45-year-old single mom from San Diego I met at a minimalism meetup. She'd spent years chasing the American dream. A 3,000-square-foot house, luxury SUVs, private school for her kids, only to drown in $50,000 of debt and constant stress. When her health began to falter, she turned to Stoicism and began questioning her desires. Do I need this lifestyle, or am I chasing society's script? She downsized to a 1,200-square-foot condo, sold one car, and cut unnecessary expenses. With the savings, she took her kids on camping trips, teaching them to love nature over gadgets. Today, Maria says she's richer than ever. Not in dollars, but in moments. Her story echoes a truth 70% of Americans overlook. Material wealth often chains us, while simplicity sets us free. Critical thinking is vital here. When you're tempted to buy something new, a $200 jacket, a 65-inch TV, ask, will this truly enhance my life, or am I filling a void? This question, grounded in Stoic wisdom, exposes the illusions of consumerism. In the US, where the average household has $6,000 in credit card debt, this practice is a lifeline. To live this lesson, try negative visualization. Imagine losing everything, your home, your job, your possessions. At first, it's unsettling, but it reveals that your core self, your resilience, your values, remains intact. I did this during a power outage, sitting in my dark apartment, and realized a warm blanket and my journal were enough to feel content. Another tool is mental decluttering. Each day, write down 3 things you think you need: a promotion, a bigger house, more followers. Then ask, without these, would I still be happy? Often, the answer is yes, freeing you from false desires. Gratitude amplifies this richness. Each morning, note 3 things you already have: a 5-minute sunrise, a loyal pet, a sturdy pair of shoes. This shifts your focus from lack to abundance. In a culture where 60% of millennials feel they're behind in life, gratitude is a quiet revolution. Finally, embrace small acts of release. donate a bag of clothes, skip an impulse purchase, or let go of an outdated goal. When I gave up my dream of owning a luxury condo, I felt a rush of freedom, unburdened by a vision that no longer fit. Owning nothing, having everything isn't about rejecting the world. It's about living fully in it with a heart unweighed by want. As we close this journey, reflect on the path we've traveled. We've learned to let go of excess, to embrace change, to break invisible chains, to find peace without moving, to draw strength from solitude, to claim true freedom, and to find wealth in simplicity. Each lesson is a thread in a tapestry of freedom, not the fleeting kind sold by advertisements, but the lasting kind forged in your mind and soul. Imagine waking tomorrow, unburdened by worry, craving, or comparison, your heart full of gratitude for the life you already have. That's the Stoic promise. A life where you need nothing because you already have everything. This isn't the end, but a beginning. A call to live lightly, bravely, and true to yourself every single day. As we stand at the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect on the path we've traveled together. We began by learning to let go, shedding the weight of possessions, expectations, and negative thoughts to uncover a lighter, freer self. We embraced life's constant change, flowing with its river rather than fighting its current. We broke the invisible chains of fear and perfectionism, reclaiming our inner strength. We discovered how to leave dissatisfaction behind without moving an inch, simply by shifting our perspective. We found power in solitude, meeting ourselves in the quiet moments society often drowns out. We redefined true freedom as mastery over our thoughts and emotions, not the pursuit of endless desires. And finally, we realized that by owning nothing, we can have everything, finding wealth in the simplicity of a grateful heart. These 7 Stoic lessons aren't just ancient wisdom. They're a blueprint for thriving in today's America, where the pressure to do more, have more, and be more can feel overwhelming. In a world where 70% of Americans report feeling stressed daily, where social media fuels comparison, and where the average household carries $6,000 in debt, these lessons are a rebellion against the chaos. They remind us that happiness isn't in the next purchase, the next promotion, or the next like. It's in the choices we make each day. Start small. This morning, take 5 minutes to sit quietly, noticing your breath instead of your phone. Write down 3 things you're grateful for: a 12-ounce coffee, a kind word, a moment of laughter. Ask yourself, what can I let go of today? Maybe a grudge, a cluttered drawer, or a worry about tomorrow. These acts, grounded in Stoicism, build a life of purpose and peace, no matter where you are. In a culture that celebrates hustle, choose to live intentionally, to value your mind over your possessions, and to find joy in the present moment. This journey doesn't end here. It's a beginning. If these lessons have sparked something in you, I invite you to take action with ZENLIGHT 8. Hit that subscribe button to join our community, where we share daily inspiration to help you live lighter and truer. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. You never know how it might change their path. And here's my challenge to you. Drop a comment below and tell us which of these 7 lessons resonates most with you. Is it letting go of clutter, embracing change, or finding freedom in solitude? Share your story, your struggles, your victories. Let's walk this Stoic path together. Your comment could inspire someone else to take their first step toward a freer life. Thank you for being here, for daring to look within and build a life that's truly yours. I can't wait to see you in the next video on ZENLIGHT 8, where we'll continue to uncover the wisdom that sets us free.